So yeah, we should be able to make some progress today. Last stream we had some technical difficulties that I was trying to nail out, but I feel like I've found some solutions that should speed up the process so that we should be able to animate a little bit more efficiently today. But it's still not 100% because naturally it's a big scene, so naturally it's just going to be very dense when the computer's trying to process everything. So I think to some extent there's some things just that you just can't avoid. But I did manage to figure out what some of the issues were, and one of them, well, I did a number of things to try and optimize the scene. One was deleting the history of all the objects in the scene, and then deleting any unused nodes, and then when I'm animating, not to use the lighting version and to turn my anti-aliasing off, and then to turn off the ambient occlusion because all of this is processing power. But I think one of the big ones, actually, which was actually mentioned in stream by one of the people in chat, was to remove any keys in my rig that weren't actually moving. So in other words, if I was just setting a key on a control, but I wasn't actually moving anything on that control, all that data is just piling up and up and up, and it becomes very dense. And you can see here by my picker, it's quite a dense rig. And when you've got thousands of keys, you know, it can just get incredibly dense. So there is a tool that Animbot has which essentially cleans up your scene. So it will go through your rig and recognize where there isn't any movement on a control, and it will just delete that key. But because we've been going through this very long shot with all of these keys and all these controls, you can imagine it took a while to do that. So I think to clear out any unused keys, I literally had to just leave Maya running. I ran the script and left it running, and I think it took about 5 hours, literally just with the looping loading circle on my cursor to allow Maya to just go through and clear all that stuff out, which was crazy. So I guess that just shows you how many keys there were that I wasn't using. But despite that, I think it is running a little faster now. So at least when I was timing it before, it would take about 5-10 minutes to get anything in tweenmachine to work, but now it's taking about 10 seconds. So there's still a little bit of a delay when I'm using it, but it works enough that we can function, which is the main thing. But yeah, despite that, what I can do is I'll just allow people to join as and when. But yeah, what we can do is I will play what progress we've made today, we've made in the past, and then we'll go from there. And once we have a few more people in the chat, I actually have received some comments in the meantime in the last couple of days. And it's really nice. There's a lot of positive reception towards this project. And there's a lot of fans. So they've been both praising the project so far, but the process, but also they've been asking some really good questions. And so that they would like to know a little bit more about how I work. So I didn't want to answer them directly when I thought it could benefit everyone. Obviously, I'll keep those people's names anonymous. But I think it would be good to answer those questions on stream. So I've deliberately held off answering them and told them I would answer in stream. So once we've got a few more people in here, I'll answer those. Then if anyone has any follow-up questions to those, then we can go from there. But specifically during the blocking plus process, what we're doing now, there have been a few questions regarding that. And it's not so much confusion, it's more just trying to understand my process. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it's beneficial to other people to hear me explain that too. A lot of people have been asking my mindset towards when I'm moving into blocking plus. What is my mindset as I'm approaching it? Because I think a lot of people were struggling with, well, from what they told me, a lot of people are struggling with how they're making decisions at certain part, especially at this part of the process, which for me, I think is a really fundamental part of the process. Your blocking plus is really where you're defining so much of what happens in your movement. And I feel like, from what I've read, a lot of people are struggling with how they make those decisions and how they know if they're making the right decision and what they should be thinking about, because sometimes they rely too heavily on, for instance, things like reference, and then when they don't use the reference, then they get stuck. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see other people's takes on that once we get into it a bit later. You gonna work for us now? There we go. Now you'll see in the bottom left corner, you'll actually see a key. You'll see what I'm typing and what I'm pressing with my keyboard, which hopefully might be beneficial to people. So if you see specifically what I'm clicking, because I think that will be a follow-up question that I'll answer later regarding my workflow, because a lot of people know that I use hotkeys and shortcuts for things, but they not exactly know what I'm pressing when to get the results I'm getting. So what I will do is I'll explain later what shortcuts I'm using and what they do, and then hopefully you can connect the dots and you'll see why I'm using something at a certain time. Yeah, all this to say, what I'll do is I'll play what progress we've made so far, and then we'll just carry on from there. So we got to that part. So essentially we were refining what we'd made a couple of streams ago. So as I'm going through this now, there's a couple of things that I still want to double check. Let me just save the scene before we overwrite something else. So we're now on version 45. So as we're coming down here, I wanted to make sure that we had this nice suspended hang time. So I do need to check in the graph editor just to make sure that it is actually working how I intend it to. So we're dropping down here for longer. And then as we come up, we're building up momentum in here. Now this is on 2s. I actually think we can hold in this down for longer. And then we're pushing up into this. So in other words, as we're coming through this section here, I would like to, through all of this section, just ease this out a little bit less. So in other words, as we're coming out of this, we're hanging down at the bottom, so we get this nice suspended time in here, and then we push away so you clearly see the up momentum. And to add to that, what we could potentially do is begin to add a little bit of her body going to the right in here, so then it pushes away to the left, and then I can fix the legs. Hey Adam, how's it going, man? Good to see you in here again, as usual, as always. So yeah, now that it's something you'll notice is there are certain keys, now that if I highlight my timeline, you can see certain keys no longer exist, whereas others do. So this is going to be the tricky part, is I think what I need to do to also just help with streamlining the process is I need to create a button in my picker that is only the fundamental controls that I use regularly, and then any of the secondary ones are just unnecessary keys that I'm not using. So we've already done a cleanup process now, but I'm just going to create a button in the picker which allows us to, you know, only add keys on the essentials. So what I will do is I'll just go into our picker here, and I'll create a new button. I mean, we have body and then we have all, but what's the difference really? So I could just override body with the fundamental controls. So we definitely want the root, we want the arms, we want the hands. All of these are controls that we use consistently. And her bend bones, for sure. We use the neck a lot. And we use the head. We don't use the squash and stretch. We do use these little poles on her legs. We don't use any of the mini controls, but then we do use these bends as well. And then we do want all of these heel on the feet, but then we don't need to select her hair and her jacket. So all those controls at the bottom, we just don't need to use really. And then we'll select the sub control as well, just in case. And I think these are the essentials. These are the ones that we use the most often. All the others are just stuff that we don't use really at all. So Now I can go into the picker and I can just replace that. So now when I select this, it only selects those fundamentals. So I just need to make a habit of not selecting all when I key, because it'll just make the scene more dense. But before I go any further, I will just overwrite my existing picker I have of her. So I need to double check where that is. I think it's this one. It looks like I don't have a picker in here for her already, so I will just create one. Let's just call this NC11 woman, like that. Then at least we know we've got that picker now. Good to see you doing well, Adam. Yeah, I figured out some of the technical issues. I don't know if it's like 100%, but yeah, it's functioning better. As I was explaining before, if you didn't hear me, essentially, when I timed it when I was using tweenmachine using an embossed tweener, and before it was taking anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes, and now it's taking about 10 seconds. So there's still a lag between the in-betweens. It's not instant, but it is better. And I basically had to just go through and remove a lot of the keys and then like change my settings, so I wasn't using anti-aliasing. We've got our GPU like the parallel GPU caching and working and that kind of stuff. And I think it's just like an accumulation of a lot of different mini settings have helped. But the conclusion I did find is that there is no way to control how much RAM Maya uses, and it is capped. Apparently, it uses what it needs, but then it keeps crashing or it slows down. I'm like, well, you've got a bunch of data here that you could be accessing, but you're not using it. So I don't quite understand that part. But I digress, you know. But yeah, cheers, Carol, for the sub as well. I really appreciate it. So now we're coming through here. We just need to catch her legs. So now I can select the body controls as we're coming through here. And I just need to rekey a lot of this section. So I've got the keys to shift through, and then we need to fix her legs. So she was coming through here. At this point here, we are starting to lose her knees. So this is where we were starting to cheat quite a bit anyway. But we might be able to get away. Like we are, like her lower leg here is super short. But you may not feel it too much when we play it through. But I do need to fix the legs here for sure. So as that's coming around, this needs to be easing out. Something like this. And then that goes into the push-off. So now there's a little bit more of a hang time in there, basically, as we're coming around into this push-off. And then we can carry on, so we can actually finally move on from this section and we can move into the next part, because I think the rest of it was working well. It was just that very small thing I wanted to fix there. Yeah, classic Maya, exactly. So now the next section we're moving into is these parts here. So I'm just making sure I'm rekeying the essential controls. And then as we're coming around here, now we can move into refining some of this stuff. So we're coming through here. We had this push off. Now we have the ease out pose here. This was initially a semi breakdown, if you will, in my blocking pass, but actually there was really the breakdown needs to be the apex, and this is still going up here. So there's not really a hang time pose in here. And there is some time in between as well. So we do need to find where we want that hang time to be and where the apex is. And the way to do that is by listening to the music, right? So I need to hear where my beats are, see if there's anything specific that I also want to understand my intention, because obviously I had an idea when I was blocking this out, but then we're revisiting it from such a long time ago that things have changed in the meantime, or I might not remember what my intention was. So yeah, we'll just go through that and just make sure that I understand what I'm doing before I add more keys. Oh, there was a weird glitch up in there. Whoa. Well, that definitely needs to be in steps. It looks like it might not be. Yeah, it wasn't in steps. I also noticed the hips get a bit broken at some points as well. So this is all good, but here we need to ease out the spine more into that position. Like that. Just to fix the spine there. Then as we're pushing away... Let me play this back in real time. Oh, it is playing in real time. Why are you not playing my music then? Oh, there you go. For some reason, I played that back and the music wasn't there. Dun 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 dun. Yeah. Duh, duh. So it is roughly halfway is where the in-between is going to be. So this is where I'm now using Tween Machine. There you go. That took about 5 seconds. That was actually really good. So we should be in FK at this point. Yeah, we're in FK. So that's quite good. So that means I can just move this up and we can carry on that hang time. And then she's going to drop down. And then I can see that we're reversing her spine here. So during this hang, I'm probably going to hit the... Yeah, I'm going to hit the spine early so we get the reversal. Might even go a little bit more. So we slightly overshoot the spine change. And then we can keep this leg up. And we can keep it wide so that we get that nice line of action wrapping through. Now, do I want to get... Yeah, I think I'm going to bring this leg up. The tricky part is, I don't really... I want to avoid it looking too Spider-Man-like, and it's so hard to do that. Like, a lot of the projects I've been working on recently, they're like, we want to have this very dynamic characters, but we don't want them to look like Spider-Man. And this isn't just one project, this is multiple projects have said this term. Because obviously Spider-Man is so iconic, but he's kind of claimed a lot of dynamic poses, and then you automatically identify with that character when you see that pose, and trying to make them bespoke and unique and have their own traits is actually quite difficult. It's like, how do you make a character so iconic that you can identify them by a series of poses without it being associated with something else? So it is tricky, and I'm not exactly trying to define a whole type of pose set for her, but I would like to try to maybe avoid going to like associated with other characters, I suppose. So I could follow her arm through here. So it comes around early. And then this can already begin to follow through. Like this. So we're just getting we're exaggerating the overlap and follow through a little. I say this and I'm already thinking this is looking quite Spider-Man. I wonder if I can overshoot. Or there you go, I can undershoot her arm just so we get a little bit of that peel off. Might keep her head down a bit more. So now we're coming through here. And we have this in between in here. Da, da, da. So this key here is where we're going to hit the chair. Now, I might actually have her slightly closer The railing, we can change the staging if necessary. Like, we can change the height of this at any point. We could even have it, like, broken, just so that you read parts of her. So I'm not really too concerned with that right now. If we really want to, I can hide it. The only thing I need to remember... I'll just do it temporary. I think I have a temp hide. Here we go. So I'll just add that to temp hide so we can see what we're doing. So she's coming through, she's kicking. I'm going to keep her leg contacting the chair early. Now I probably will overshoot her arm here, just to get a little bit of that wrap around. And we can use a little bit of the bend bone just to get a little bit more rhythm in there. And then this arm is coming through. I could have it overshoot a bit more here. So in other words, I could probably engage her chest a little bit more. And then I'll counter back with her head. So in other words, we can engage her shoulder around more. I'm not too worried about the clipping of the collar, because I can fix that. What I'm really looking for is where the overshoots are happening. I can already begin to twist her chest a little bit more in here already. Just to get a little bit more contrast. And then this is a hang time, so at this point we're basically just easing in. Yeah, like Tween Machine at this point it seems pretty good. Now I want to ease in here as well, on the chair. You gonna work? No. Ah, it's because it's referenced. Oh no. So I'm gonna have to duplicate the rig again. So let's find where it starts. So it starts here. Let's duplicate the rig. What I can do is, let's find the original. So it's here. So it's that guy to that guy. Okay, so what I can do is just do a parent constraint. Oops, without having the main offset on, so it should snap into position. And then on the dupe, I will key it. And then just rekey everything, so we're just translating that information of the chair. And then I can hide the referenced one. And now I should be able to animate this version. And it's got the keys that I had before. So I can delete that constraint now. And now I can just animate this as I was. So there was an extra key in here, wasn't there? This one, which we didn't add. There you go. So now I can key this. Now in this one, I may get a little bit of an extra down. So we're keeping her down for longer. Could probably separate her knee just to give it a little bit more clearance of silhouette to her head. And then I may slightly delay the arm to clear the silhouettes again. Try and keep them clean. That one's probably going to come around earlier, I think. Yeah, something like this. So I think this hang time is generally working, but what I need to do is start to add the in-between, so that we go back on like the variable frame rates on the 2s and 3s and 1s or whatever it might be, what we need for that moment. What I was just explaining is there is actually a few questions that people reached out to me on LinkedIn and I thought they were really useful to answer on stream. So obviously I'll keep them anonymous, but I thought they'd be useful so that you guys can actually understand my mindset a little bit more as I'm going through the shots, because it's all well and good me just clicking buttons and moving stuff around and you get to see the results, but then some of you may want to start applying this mindset yourself and they're not quite understanding how it works. So I thought it'd be best to just explain it on stream rather than just answering them directly, so that it benefits more people. So what I will do is I'll quickly just read out the questions that I received online, and then I'll answer them here. So just give me 1 second whilst I grab the questions. They said, I suffer a lot in blocking plus stage. If I follow the reference, my animation becomes very rigid and noisy. And if I don't, it looks too pose to pose. Can I explain how my brain works during the blocking plus stage? How do I know what exactly I want, what I want to lead and follow? How are you able to be so confident in the blocking in your breakdown stage? What is the secret? So that was how they phrased it. And it's funny because they've referred to some there's some secret recipe or secret sauce, and honestly a lot of it is trial and error, as you've seen. Some of it does work out well, and other parts take a little bit more figuring out, but what I can say is this: because he's referring to how he uses reference and then how he strays away from the reference. So if there's a specific action that happens in the reference, I would want to try and replicate it, but then how I apply that to the animation is different. So I'm not just following the exact posing or the exact spacing, I want to emphasize things. And I think what a lot of people are comfortable doing is pushing poses. So we know that, okay, we understand line of action, we understand flow of our posing, or adding more contrast, or creating graphic shapes, whatever it might be. A lot of people are able to apply that to quite a good degree, but I think what a lot of people do get lost in is when you look at reference, they get glued to the timing and spacing. And we have to make conscious choices there. And to be honest, the conscious choice can be, actually, I quite like the timing and spacing from my reference, and that's the essence of it that I want to capture in my shot. And so that applies. But I think it's more just having the awareness to ask yourself, breaking it down by your principles. Okay, I'm looking at the timing of my reference. Do I like the timing of my reference? No. Okay, do I use the timing of the reference as a guide but then push things a little bit more, or do I completely create my own timing? And then the second aspect is the same with spacing, right? So then it's like, okay, I'm looking at what this arm is tracking, and I can see, okay, it arcs around like this. Do I want it to arc around like that? Do I want it to have a tighter spacing? Do I want it to feel more even? They all convey different feelings. So when I'm going through this shot specifically, my mindset is very much, if I'm not using the reference, a lot of the time I'm prioritizing clarity, because we're moving so quickly that I want to make sure that you can always read where something comes from and where it goes to. And so a lot of that is because she's quite complex around her upper torso. She's got the jacket and she's got this biomechanical arm and she's got her hair. A lot of the time I'm trying to keep her arms out of her silhouette, so that whenever one thing is crossing over the other, I keep the spacing tight, which also lends in the favor of what I'm paying homage to. So when I was doing the animation style breakdown, you saw me breaking down Akira shots. And one of the observations I made from that was that the main mass moves quite linearly. However, the arms and the legs move actually quite snappy. So that works in my favor, because it means that if I do have an arm dragging behind, the crossover from going from one side to the other can be quite quick, which means we can always keep the arms in silhouette space, so they have their own negative space around them, and they don't always have to cross over inside the silhouette. And if they do, we make sure we pose it in a way that's very clear to read. That's one of the mindsets I have. as to what is leading and what is following, it really depends on how the mass is being used as well. So I'm thinking about the idea of inertia and force. So if I want her to do a dive roll, would I lead with my arms first, or would I lead with my head first? Because the upper part of the body is what's going to lead the action, and then when you do a roll, you end up landing on your back, like your upper back a lot of the time, or you would contact with your arms first. So there's two choices there, or vice versa. If you were doing a jump and you're landing, you're naturally going to land on your legs first to catch the weight. So then I'm like, okay, if my leg is dragging, maybe there's something on the upper half, or sorry, if I'm leading with the lower half, maybe something in the upper half can drag behind. Or do I only need one leg to catch the weight, so there can be an offset on the legs, which means I can drag one leg behind more, so we're creating more contrast. So it's more asking myself questions, and I'm not always saying this out loud when I'm streaming, but they are things I'm thinking about, is how can I create an interesting pose that creates contrast, but also keeps clarity, and what I'm really looking for is change. That's what I think makes things look more interesting. If everything moves together, then it becomes stale. So even if it feels like everything is a bit loose, there are ways to tighten that up, and it can be to do your spacing, it could be how much you're dragging something, but it's always better to go bigger first and then rein it in than it is to keep it too like conservative and then try and push it afterwards. So I would lean on the side of getting outside your comfort zone and adding, like, over exaggerating some of those principles, and then if it feels too much, you bring it back, which has always been my philosophy. But then I was always told to rein it in when I first started animation. I was always pushing it too far, and they were telling me to bring it back. And then over the years, I've restrained myself so much that now this is almost going back to my roots, where I'm now trying to over exaggerate and then bring it back in again. So it's always a juggling act. It depends on the style you're working on. So that's one aspect you can do. I'll just see if I'm answering all these questions that they had. But yeah, that's how I'm making decisions as to how things lead and follow. Then they also said about Tween Machine. I also wanted to ask how you work with it. I remember you told us you use only 75% and 30% for breaking down your poses. And then they said for only one stream, could you leave Tween Machine open so we can see and learn when and where you are using these values in the timeline, so they can see, so you can see the values themselves. So my hotkeys are actually bound to Animbot, so I'm not actually using a Tween Machine that has an interface where you see those buttons being pressed. However, I can break down a little bit clearer how I'm using them. So I brought this up. This is part of like an old demonstration that I made years ago, but basically this is how my brain thinks about spacing from my work, from a workflow perspective. So essentially in the red we have our first pose, and in the blue we have our second pose. This is obviously using an old interface of Tween Machine, but the exact same principle applies to Animbot, and I can show you how to set that up if you want me to. But the essence, to simplify how it works, we have two keys that have different values of ease out, and we have two keys that are different values of ease in. And then we have one that's directly in the middle. So I set this up on my keyboard to YUIOP. So they're all in one straight line. And starting from left is we're easing out, but we're favoring pose one quite a lot. So you can see like the distance we're traveling isn't very far from the first pose. So it's quite a tight spacing is how I would refer to it as. And then we have a U, which is the one next to it, which is -30. So now we're getting closer to halfway between the two poses, but we're still easing out. and then I is directly in the middle, so it's literally a 1-to-1, like 50% between two poses. And then we have the reflection on the opposite side with O and P. So whilst I can't actually show you with an interface because I don't use this tool anymore to actually see it changing, if you take into account this chart, the YUIOP, you can see now when I press buttons on the stream, you will see that changing. So you'll see the keys I'm pressing, right? If I press YUIOP, you see the bottom left corner, you can see the buttons I'm pressing. So that might give you a better idea of what buttons I'm pressing at any given time to create a certain type of in-between. And then if you want to recap at any point, you can always rewind in stream now, but at any point if you want me to bring this back up, I can. But take everything on the left with like this tool with a pinch of salt, because I don't really use that anymore. But if you want to know how to bind this in Animbot, you can do the exact same principle. But all you have to do is go into your hotkey settings, and then just give it a second to load, and then go into your tween slider. If you scroll down, we're looking for certain values. So the one that's just called tweener is literally 50%. So that one you can see here I've set to I. Then U is 1/3, so that's the positive 30%. So that's the ease in, but favoring nearer the middle. And then the Y, which is the tight ease in to the second pose, is 1/8. And then O. Sorry, let me correct myself. The 1/3 is favoring the middle, but it's an ease out. Then the 2/3 is ease in, favoring the middle. And then P is a tight ease in to the second pose. So that's my YUIOP set there. And then it will just automatically bind to those values. But they literally, 1/8 is very close in this case to 70%, which is what I would normally use, 70-75%. So that's that's my workflow. I'll see if there was another question that they had, because they did ask me a few, but I think that's everything. Oh, there's one more. They said, please can you also explain breakdowns? I see, because I see that you don't put your breakdown exactly in the middle of two poses. I'd be really grateful if you could help us understand your process. So this is a really good question, because when I first started animating, I would always put my breakdown halfway between the two. But this is the element of timing that people sometimes take for granted. So just because a breakdown is defining how you transition from one pose to the next doesn't mean it has to be halfway in time. So you could spend only 2 frames easing out, have a really broad breakdown that happens in between on the 3rd frame, and then you could spend the next 10 frames easing in. So you're spending a lot less time easing out than you are easing in. And the way that's justified is maybe the spacing that happens in the breakdown is actually really broad, so that it requires 10 frames to ease in. So the way that I normally think about my timing of where I want to position my breakdown in time between 2 poses really is determined by the amount of range I'm using. So I'm first asking myself, how long do I think it will take to ease out to hit that breakdown? And how long after in time does it require to slow down that inertia, to slow down the force? And then that will help indicate, does it need an overshoot in that time? If it does need an overshoot in that time, maybe I need to add more time. But also there's a lot of subjectivity in there. There's a lot of creative license you can use as well. So you'd be surprised how forgiving things can be if you just want to exaggerate style. So for instance, in this case, if we have a look at my ease out, we can see here, this is where we're starting here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, just to hit the ease out. So 10 frames of ease out. Then we hit the breakdown another 5 frames later. But then as we ease in, that's only 4 frames later. And then we're going into the next breakdown. So again, a lot of it can play to rhythm as well. So if there's a very specific timing you're looking for, that's the other aspect as well, is with your breakdowns, if there's a certain accent you want to hit, where we feel the change is where the accent happens. So if I'm going ba 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 ba, where we hear the sound is where the most amount of change should happen. So that will also determine if there's a very specific rhythm you're looking for and you want like a bum 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 bum. Where I'm making those sounds is where the breakdowns could potentially happen. That will create the rhythm you're looking for, and then you accommodate your spacing to make that flow. So I'm kind of doing a bit of both. When I'm thinking about this shot, I'm like, oh, okay, I want to hit this beat, and you've seen me adapt. You've seen my timing change. Because in my initial blocking, I was hitting the beats where I heard them, but then sometimes that timing didn't feel justified in the weight and the inertia of the character. So I was then having to reaccommodate my timing and my spacing to make it so that it still hit the beats, or maybe I hit a different rhythm that would still feel justified with the character's mass. So it doesn't happen often, but sometimes there are those little things, which is actually why that earlier part of the shot took 2 streams to figure out, because I had to retime. Apart from the technical difficulties, I also had to go in and retime it to make sure that I got that spacing to work. So that it felt like there was weight. So yeah, it can take a bit of time. And then we have one from Ajit here as well. Do speed up or slow down your reference inside your editing software, as I've noticed many do that. Yeah, I do. So if I have the timing already in my edit, so for instance, if we have this song playing, if I already have that, I can edit my timing of my reference to it within like Adobe Premiere or whatever. But if you want to be a little bit more versatile, what you can use is you can retime it within Maya, which I personally prefer, honestly. It really depends. If it's for acting, it's harder to retime in Maya sometimes. But for dynamic stuff like this, if it's a very exaggerated rhythm, then you can retime. So for instance, if I find my reference in here, I won't turn it on, but you can see if I were to go into the time offset, oh, I haven't actually retimed it that much. Okay, so I actually did retime this in Premiere. I'm contradicting myself. But normally I would retime in Maya. I think it's better because it's more flexible. Like, you can actually manipulate the curve, whereas in Premiere you can't. It's not as adaptable. It's easy to chop up different clips and then retime them, but the transition from one to the next isn't so seamless. It's a little bit choppy. So I'm sure there are other programs that probably do it better. I know that you can manipulate curves in After Effects, for instance, or I'm sure like you can use DaVinci or whatever it might be. We'll probably have something better. But I typically use Premiere, and it's not as versatile as others. So yeah, that's my process. But yeah, we can carry on. So we're coming through here. Now I can start to add some in-betweens in here now. Now I don't really need the time. I don't need to have my music on at this point as I'm scrubbing. I can just see where the spacing it hits because I know that the beats are working. So as we're pushing off here, this was on the 1. So do I continue to go into the 1 to hit this? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so I could hit a 2 and then into a 3, so we hang for a little bit more. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ease in, which normally under conventional, if we were doing this in a conventional style, i.e. things like if you were doing something like Disney or Pixar, if we're thinking about conventional, at least conventional spacing in that way, you normally wouldn't ease into your breakdown. So this is actually a perfect thing about this. So this is the structure that I use when I teach, and this is just a basic summary of like my blocking process on the bottom, and then how I begin to add in-betweens on the top. And you can see here that we have what we refer to as progressive spacing, which is how we progressively ease out. So say we start off in the anticipation, we progressively ease out, get bigger spacing into the breakdown, and then we have bigger spacing on the way out, and then we progressively slow down as we ease in to an overshoot or a key pose, whichever one you end up going into. But when we have stylized animation, what can often happen is sometimes we end up easing in to the breakdown. So in other words, we begin to ease out of the anticipation, then we ease in and slow down into the breakdown, and then we come back out of it and then back into the overshoot or whatever it might be. Why do we do that? It's so that you favor the pose. So sometimes in anime, you'll notice this, they'll hang in the air, they go, whoa, and then they're mid-air, but they just slow down abruptly and then they carry on again. And it's so that you read that big anticipation pose mid-air, and then you come out of it again into like, so it's more dynamic. It feels more kinetic. So that's something that I'm considering when I'm doing this shot as well. You see how you feel this rhythm? It's like a kind of thing. They do that a lot in anime. So that's where some of the mindset is coming from this. So it's not using conventional spacing theory, but it's favoring clarity and rhythm and feeling. So as we're coming through this, I'm essentially easing a lot of this through. So I can actually favor this leg into the air a bit more. I might be able to overshoot this leg a little bit. And then I'm actually going to already ease in that hand. So you're creating those arcs. This is a good opportunity to keep the arm coming around a bit more. Might be able to begin to continue to twist the chest a bit more through here. So I might actually be able to hit this overshoot early, and then from here we can begin to ease this out. Like that. So now we're hanging in the air from here to here. This is on the 3. And then as we're coming down, then we're going to drop down. So I can actually put this on a 2, I think, in here. So I'm going to ease out. So again, you see I'm pressing U there. So now this is an ease out, but we're 30% out, like toward the halfway. Which gives me an opportunity in here to lead by easing in with the leg. So now that right leg, we can put in IK, and that's going to begin to lead down to lead the action. And then this foot, I'm going to keep up, but let's get the lower leg down a little bit more. I actually could keep that foot pointing to the floor a little bit more, and then it skids up, so you get a nice little contrast in there. Now we're probably going to follow through and overshoot the chest in here. But then we'll keep the neck and the head aligned to where we're going. That was bent a bit too far. So I'm trying to find the timing here. I might actually continue to drag this for a bit longer. Then it comes through. I keep that wrist dragging behind. Then it's coming through. Yeah, that feels a bit more progressive. Now this arm definitely needs to come over. I need to overshoot the elbow up. And then it's coming around. Still feel like this chest needs to be twisting more though. Then it comes around the other way. Then we're in this breakdown here. So as we're coming through, this is on a 2, so I can just continue to ease in here. Well, this is more like we're just continuing the inertia. So this is just carrying on going forward. Now I can layer in a little bit more over the top. So we're coming around. Still feel like we can overshoot the chest. Then it's easing out to the left. So I'm just thinking about the timing of the overshoot. We already have this drag here, but then here I do wonder if, yeah, we can get a little bit more lead in the head and the chest. So we're going to exaggerate in here a bit more. So I'm going to lean her spine forward. So we get a nice lead and follow. So again, it's all just in aid of contrast. So we're coming around here. Overshooting the arm. Then it's going to ease out. So pushing through here. Yeah, there's definitely going to be an in-between. That's good. Now I need to be careful with this foot because it needs to contact this top part. So as we hit here, really needs to be here, just for consistency. And then we need to slightly drag the forearm. Just get a bit of overlap. Now we can begin to add an in-between. So as we hit this, I am now wondering, based on the inertia, I don't think it needs to take this long unless we're holding in the air. Like we're holding in the anticipation before she pops up. So there could be a little bit more inertia that she kind of like softens into and then pops up. That's an option, but I need to listen to the music to see if that's going to work. It could work. I think it'd have to be quick. So in here, this could be on the 1. And here, we're now easing in. Now, this is the thing. I know I've pressed I, which is technically halfway between, but because of the timing, it's still progressively easing in. So it is technically halfway, but in time, it's favoring the breakdown, which means we're easing in still. So from here, it means I can overshoot inwards whilst the foot makes contact. Now, I do want to get a little bit of contact on here with the chair. So now this is where the other foot can make contact. Now in here I could begin to get a bit of a reversal. So we're coming through, we're going to straighten the spine, but then lean the root forwards. Or do I want to... Yeah, this is tricky. Maybe the spine just needs to be remaining like this, and it's just the neck that comes up. Yeah, that could work. And then we need to keep the arm. That can already be easing out. Just we read that spacing progress. This arm can already begin to come through as well because we're slowing down. So it's all our spacing theory. Oh, overlap and follow through as well. They're just going to pop up. So at this point here, should most likely be higher. Because we have this height point here. So I can actually just go into tweenmachine, or into the graph editor. And these two keys, we can just progressively ease in to come up. I think that can still be tighter. So here, this arm would already be coming through more. Which makes a cool pose. I do quite like this graphic shape, so I may just keep the arm here, to be honest. Don't let it come through just yet. I'm going to hold in this position. Like this. Then it'll come down and later. So again, we're just getting a little bit more of a hang time. I might have this hand still come through though, just so we get a little bit of variation in timing. So this is following through early. May need to counter her chest a little bit in here. The head will already begin to level out. Like this. Now the rest of it's basically going to be blending through. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you in here. So now we have 1, 2, 1, 2. So I'm actually going to bring this one frame early so we can keep it on 2s. Because I don't really want to put this on 3s here. Now we're progressively easing in. The chair's going to need to change that key too. Now we're coming through. That foot's going to come back slightly. So now we're coming with... Come in. We're keeping the body in, then it pops out. We get that little compression as she goes into the chair, then she pops out. I think that's working pretty well though. This elbow needs to ease out more, or ease in more to the overshoot. which means this may come out earlier. So this may follow through earlier. And that's working. Then we have this hang time here. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I could put this on the 3. So we can go to a 2, then a 3. So this is the 2. So now we ease in. I selected the chair as well this time. There you go. So now it's easing in. See, like, Twin Machine's working a lot faster now. Hey, it's a bear. Good to see you as well here. Please, by doing that, you are taking account of the weight of the chair. Slightly. I mean, I'm taking the chair as a pinch of salt. The gravity isn't really going to make sense here. It's more the feeling of the rhythm than it is like how it's balancing. It's more in the thing. So again, if we try and ground it, if we try and ground the logic too much, then it takes away from the fun of the concept. And I mean, she's literally propelling herself 5 meters in the air across an electric wire. So, you know, there's only so much logic that we can put into this. So I'm just going to check. I could actually still favor the up here just to get a little bit of an arc. So we're coming around. I want to continue that inertia just a little bit. Now, this key here is we're coming through. I do like this pose. I like how straight. I know it's a bit, some people might say it's too straight, but I do quite like it. So, yeah, we're really easing in here for a long time. So, I kind of like it though. I think that'll give it some fun rhythm where it's like, kind of thing. So, this is all on 2s. We're coming up. We're coming up. It's dirt. I'm going to put this on a 2 alongside the chair. And then this is going to continue to ease in. Then we have the 3. I think that'll work. So now easing in again. So this is all rising. I'm going to check my graph editor again. Just make sure this is all progressively going up. Which it is, but I would like it to continue. So it comes up here. This needs to be higher. And then this needs to be further back as well to get that nice lead. And this is supposed to be the crossover with the foot. Now, I think that's going to happen quite quickly in the end. So I have to be careful with that spacing. I do see the logic I'm going for though. So we got that big hang time. This goes on to the 3 in here. And then we're beginning to ease out. So this is going to be, again, a pretty tight ease out from this key. So this is 1, 2, 3, then onto the 2. Perfect. So then we're going on 3s just into the tiny hang, and then we're coming out faster. Like this. So we just get a little bit of a read. I'm going to keep that foot down for a bit longer. Then it's going to come up. Now, do I follow? I'm actually going to follow through the arms early. I don't like how my chest is coming back here. It needs to keep the weight a little bit longer. Keep the balance, not the weight. Just keep my terminology correct. Then we're dropping down. So in here, I definitely want to follow through the hands. This is coming around. This is over, following through. I think this needs to be earlier on the hand as well. Like this. Coming down. Now this, there is quite a lot of time here in between. When you say blocking plus, I assume you're going to leave it on 2s because you're using 2 to 5. Are you going to go directly in polish right after, since you're going to be, or is there going to be any spline? It's a good question. So when I say polish, yes, we're going to go into blocking plus. So we're doing blocking plus, which yes, is variable keys. Polish will be, yeah, we're basically going to, trying to think of a way to phrase it. Yeah, there isn't, basically to answer your question, there is no spline process. So technically, yes, we will go from blocking plus to polish, but blocking will be in blocking plus for longer because there'll be more passes to still do. So we'll still need to do a jacket pass. And we'll be tying a lot of it down, and a lot of it is in ones. So like there will be, and the same for the hair. I need to do her face at some point. So like that stuff, I think we can get through it relatively quickly. A lot of it will be straight ahead, but it'll take a little bit of time. But I think we'll be able to get through it faster than the body, of course. But yeah, polish will mostly just be refining and tying down curves, maybe pushing things, tidying up some poses, that kind of stuff. And then we'll spend some time adding multiples and smears and that kind of stuff. Not necessarily smears, but multiples and speed lines. And then, yeah, we'll start doing some texturing from then on. Or some set dressing, then some texturing. I need to make sure I recompose the shot where necessary. So, we're coming through here. That is the accent. I think I can delay this. So I'm going to delay these keys. I'm going to have an extra in between in here, which is where we can actually begin to bring that foot over more, I think. So this arm can begin to ease in. For some reason, that's not... What's causing... I don't understand. The arm here... What's causing that to come up, if not the shoulder? Is it the chest? Yeah, I think it's the chest. And then countering with the head. Yeah. Then we're coming around with the hand. Getting a little bit of an arc in there. Something like that. So when I'm looking at the chair here, this spacing is wrong. So these need to ease out more. There we go, that's working a bit better. Now I'm actually going to lift this foot up early. Then here, this can already begin to come down. Then it can catch a little early there. Just tracking my spacing on the hand. So we get that nice split of the legs, then the body comes through, which would be quite cool. Want to keep her nice and direct. Just connects the neck a little bit more to what the head is doing. It's a bit awkward. Just translating to cheat what I need. Now that arm comes through. This needs to be tighter on that arm, so that's going to come up early to get that spacing to pass through. That could work, maybe. And then she's going straight into this. Duh, duh, duh. If I put it on ones, you might be able to get away with it. There's only one in between in here, but I do want it to carry on through because this is the breakdown, which makes me wonder it might even be worth putting this in earlier. Duh, duh. So that way you actually, on this accent, you hear the hand, or like the hand will already be on the railing. Yeah, there's an extra key in there. Let's come back. Duh, duh, duh. So on here, we need to already be touching the railing. So I'm going to ease this in. At this point, I probably want to turn the railing on. Would be useful. Tween Machine is slowing down now. It's coming back, guys. Oh, it's because I selected all the rig. Naughty Aaron, don't do that. Do that again. We don't want to tween the jacket. That's bad. There you go, that was faster. So we're coming around in here. This in between. I mean, it does make sense. At this point here, we do want to get a bit of a lead. Coming around, we definitely want to be favouring the arc of the neck and the head. Did I already contact? I did already contact the railing here. So yeah, we can probably add some like speed lines in there to get that to work. Or we could put it on ones. The question is, does that read? Sometimes it's quite nice when it just, yeah. I'm going to keep her behind the railing though. She's coming up. Yeah, I'm going to tuck in that leg early. That hand definitely needs to make contact. It's not twisting just yet. So that elbow can stay back. Shoulder can come down a little. Trying to find the clarity. Some of these forms. So this arm's coming back around, which means this would already have overshot early again. So I can overshoot the upper arm for a bit longer if we want to, which allows us to continue to drag the hand. I'm going to keep the hand in a clenched fist for longer. I'm going to twist the chest just to connect this a little bit more. It also just feels a bit more dynamic. I don't know if I just said dynamic or dymanic. I'm going to keep the head looking up a little higher. And then we're jumping over this railing. So there's going to be an apex in here. Yeah, I think we might need to put this on the one because it happens so quickly. So I'm going to add an in-between in here. So we're going to favor the down. Definitely get this knee favoring as well. What is going on there though? Why is that leg going strange? Is it because it's in a different... I think it's because it's got an FK, which is fine. I can just tweak this. Let's try something like this. Just look at the flow of the pose. So yeah, there needs to be a change in here. So we're going from a... We need to have a bit of a lead. So there's a bit of a change in the reversal to go back into the straight. And we only have the one frame to do that. So this is a good opportunity. There you go, you get more of an arc now. Just by leading it, following through a little bit more with the chest. So here is where we want to bring that arm into position. Might be able to have it slightly begin to grab. So let's go into our hand posing. Something like this. It's quite nice. I can already have it begin to come through. Countering a little bit to connect to the chest. Trying to find where that is going to connect through. Just in the in-between. Then we're easing out here, so this hand definitely needs to overshoot back. We get a bit more drag. That's working well. Now, I might actually be able to, because she's bending too much here, it'd be nice to continue to get a bit more contrast, so that spine stays up for longer. Like this. Let's save that. If it's on the one, I don't mind stretching too much because I have stretched earlier. So like, I don't want to, I don't want to be a hypocrite. If it's on the one, which currently it's on the two, like if we did do the stretch, it would have to be like, whoa, okay, interesting. That's never happened before. Oh, I can do the head skip. There you go. That's what I was looking for. The only thing is it'd have to drag. And we're not really dragging, we're leading. So if we did do it, we could do it the opposite way. So it'd be like this. That would be your stretch, if anything. And then this could maybe go a bit wider. We can play it, see if it looks good. But if it doesn't work, Ben, I'm blaming you. I'm joking. It's on the ones, so it should be fine. Well, the thing is, we may change the fence there. So, I mean, we can favor clarity a little bit, so we can always bring it, instead of being under the railing, because she needs to lead the action here. If anything, her eyes and her face would be above the railing, if anything. So it'd be more like this. Which, again, we may need to favor the one in here as well. There may need to be an extra in between, because it does blink with that head going under the railing, over the railing. So yes, I do see where you're coming from. It definitely needs an extra frame or two under the railing if we are to. So the alternative there is, in here there could be an extra key. So you could do something like this. So instead of this, we put this here, then we can add an extra in between where we keep the root going down, which might allow us to... It might allow us to keep the head under. There you go. Don't know what's going on with her legs though. Her feet. So she's come back. Yeah, and here I think we're just going to have to switch this to FK. Yeah, do something like this. Then it's coming through again. Just don't want it to be too distracting. Which it shouldn't be. I do worry about the knee changing so much, but we can fix that again. Put that there. That just takes away from the distraction. We're just favoring that spacing a little bit more. So now the head's under the frame for an extra beat, basically. So then we can always drag this arm just for a little bit longer. Then it comes through. Can lead out. Then it's coming up. The only thing is it does need a little bit more inertia, so this could be continuing to go to the left a bit. There we go. Just looking at the inertia of her mass. Oh no, I don't get me wrong, I love a bit of squash and stretch. So we're coming through here, then we only have one in between to hit this key. But then we do have some extra frames in here to hit this pose. This is the main pose here. So we do want this to be quick, really. I'll try adding an in-between. Go halfway between, track the arc. I do want to get some stretch in here anyway. So what I can do is counter the root, get the chest, counter to the right. So we get that curvature in the chest and in the spine, sorry, which then allows us to push off a bit more with this leg. But yeah, we're definitely going to be doing some cheating to get this to track through, because right now it's going through the fence. So likelihood is that this pose, we're going to have to tuck this leg under or more so that it comes through. And then again, we can use some multiples, or we can put it on ones. Again, there's lots of options here, but sometimes if it's the only thing that's moving, sometimes it's nice to add the multiples, because then you preserve the rest of the pose and the style consistently, and it's only that one thing that really needed accommodating. So now it looks like her neck and her head already need to be lower to track that arc. Something like this. I'm tracking the screen space. Now her hand here at some point does need to cross over. I think the weight at this point would still remain where it was. So this is going to remain like this, and then there will be a crossover in here. Around this point would be the crossover, so I think that can work. So in other words, I can just take this hand, bring that thumb out a little bit wider, and then we can splay the fingers. Oops, for some reason that's not working. Let's try this one. Something like this. Just a quick transition. So we're coming through, we hit this, we're coming over. This is on the 3 right now. This is on a 4, so I could put this on a 2. I could bring this earlier on the 2. Then it goes into a 2, into the 3, so we hang. I think that works theory-wise. And then I'm gonna hit that foot earlier. Get a little bit more depth coming through. And then it's gonna ease out again. Now I'm looking at the scale of the frame. I think I can push that more. Get big toe and big foot. And then it will disappear again. And then I'm just going to tuck this leg around just a little bit more, just so that we keep the foot in screen space. Get that nice wrapping motion. That's working well. And then we're going to ease out. So this is going to remain the 3. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Yeah, that works. So this is another 3. Now this is tricky because the screen space only works. The screen space will only work for this if the railing is also in screen space, which I do intend to do. So as soon as she touches the railing, it's also going to match her screen space on camera. So this is something that they do in anime a lot as well, is anything that's animated or the character is attached to sometimes matches the screen space. So if they hold for a frame and then the whole still just remains in screen space, even though the background is moving on ones, they would, anything that they are touching, they would also screen space. And I'll differentiate anything that is animated in screen space with the type of shading it is. So this railing won't look like the more textured-y oil painting like the rest of the everything else will. This railing will probably be cel shaded. And it might be screen spaced the entire shot because you never really see the floor. You never see it attached to the floor. As soon as she lets go, it can go back on once again. There's a little tangent with the edge of the outer frame. Could you start get out of the frames already? No. The frame already? No. Where's the tangent? Where's the tangent with the frame? Here. The foot. Yeah. Just do that. So it slides along a little bit more. Could overshoot early. Yeah. There you go. So now we get the arc. Yeah. No, it's a good call. Good spot. I did not see that. So we have this ease out. I don't think there's anything in here that I wanted to change, to be honest. It looks like it's all just kind of going into pose. I may get a little bit of follow through on the arm. I don't mind if it goes a little bit out of frame and then comes around. Now we do have a 2 in here, so now we're easing out still. I will give us a play. That's very sticky. I think we can make it a little bit more progressive. Especially that do down. I want to feel like a little bit more of a progressive drop, I think. A little bit more. Yeah, for sure. It's just a bit too punchy. Let me just fix this whilst it's fresh in my mind. So it was around here. Now, we did have this slide and stick. There's part of me, right? This spacing feels a bit too broad. I'm going to bring it back. I want her inertia to continue just a little bit more so that it's not so slidey into this. So this is just, everything in here is just a little bit further forward. Hopefully that will help. And then this one here, I'm going to continue to let it come forward. And then this part in here, we need to continue that arc and the hang. Now that I've got that part of the inertia working a little bit more, I am going to, let me just go back to our working version before I forget. Be good practice to get into that. If you want some feedback on a shot, you can send it to me on LinkedIn or something. We'll do it there, if that's okay. I know I did it for a Jeet the other day. It was only because he was demonstrating what he had done on the collab. So I guess that was a bit of an exception. But I don't want to, like, yeah. Don't want to make it like a favoritism thing, because it's not. But yeah, just to try and stay relevant to what we're doing here. Yeah, I'll be happy to give you some feedback. Just send me a DM and I'll have a look. So as we're coming through here, I can see yeah, I can see that now. Oh, I can't delete it. I can just turn off it. Can I break the connection in that and turn it off? Yeah, I can do it that way. Cool. So I'm just checking the spacing now of this part. So the timing and spacing, we pop up. It was this part here. I want it to feel a little bit more progressive. So the simplest way to do that would be just in her inertia. So we're coming up. This needs to be favored a little bit more to the right. So we're coming up, continuing to go forward. Going a bit out of frame, so I can always take the camera, tilt it up slightly in this beat, and then here I need to insert some keys. So I'm going to insert a key here, insert a key here, delete the one in between. And then in here, I'm just going to drop this down just so we get a little bit of that continual the follow. And then here again, it needs to come back up. And then need to continue to ease this in. I think I'm going to hold down for longer here. And then here it's going to punch up. It's tricky. So here, I think this hang time is good. And then here, this needs to be progressing up. Yeah, something like this. Now we got the tangent on the foot again. Oh no. I mean, she's going very much here. We can also rotate in the Y. Oh, gross. For some reason, a lot of this was in stepped. So this, oh, it wasn't in stepped, I was selecting the wrong control. I'm going crazy. Try that again. Yeah, this needs to ease in. So she's coming through here. I think it's okay at this point. She comes through here. At this point here, she's already going to begin be a bit more centered. Something like this. There we go. Now I just need to tweak that leg. Just a touch. There we go. That should feel better. Now, to double check the inertia, it might feel better already. I'll give it a play. Yeah, that feels better. The camera is a little bit up and down, so I might smooth that out, and it's okay if she leaves the camera a little bit, it just feels a bit jarring. Just that bit that I just refined, I think I need to knock it down a bit. So it's in here, just this drop. I think we can smooth that out, which is very easy to do with Animbot. Just cleaning up some of the spacing. Let's try that again. Now, since that's working, I do want to start screen spacing stuff. So, and since last time we had some technical difficulties, I didn't really get a chance to go in and actually see how to use the Tutify tool properly. So, since I have this saved now, I will try and use Tutify again, but I'll use it in the functional way where I don't. What I was doing before was baking it all out after it had done its script, and then turning on and off where like deleting keys where I didn't want it to work. But you don't need to do that. There was actually I didn't realize it created a set of nodes in the outliner where you can actually key it on and off, so that it's versatile and you can do it on the fly. So my bad there, but I will try and run the scripts now and we'll see if it works. I mean, I'm pretty sure it does. So we are attaching to this camera. We are assigning to this control. And we are assigning keys from this control. So let's attach. It's going to go through and run its magic. That was very quick. So now there should be a node. Aha. So there is now a follow node cam group in the outliner. And it has some attached nodes in here. So you can see it says attached to camera on and off. And I'm assuming this is keyable. Now there's a master 1 and a master 2. I wonder if that's because they're different controls. Possibly. Now I can actually see because it's probably already attached. Yeah, I can see it's already attached. So I'm assuming it's the second one. Yeah, it is the second one. Okay. So now I know it works. So what I can do is I'll just go in and I'll key it on and off. And I can leave it in steps. So it's off through here. Now it's on. Through here. Now from this attachment, it's going to go off. So it's all the way through here. It stays off. Then when we release here, I'm actually going to keep this up to this point here. Now it's back on. Through here. Now it's off. Then here, I'm going to turn it on. I'm actually going to keep it on through here, and I will eventually do it to the chair as well. And to the railing. And then this is where, from this key, we're now back off for blocking, for the rest of blocking. So now this technically, in theory, there you go, you can see it's already in stepped, so it should work. So now what I could try and do is run the same script, but I'm going to do it to the chair as well. So if I just put this back into this, let's try and run it on this chair. I'm curious if it needs to be a control. Because I can use the same keys. There you go, just use it to that surface and then attach again. And then it should, there you go, so now we've got it in here. Perfect. So at this point, I'm going to key it. It's going to be off through all of this section. It's only when she attaches to the chair that we need to run the script, which is this key here. So now it's on. Yay, attached. That's a great tool. See how it's attached to her now? And as soon as she drops here, now it's off again. And it will do the same to the railing. Key it off. And then it's only when she touches the railing here that it turns on. There you go, now it's attached to her. Will it look jarring? I don't know. And then here it's off again. But now that's technically screen space matched. So I'll save that and then we'll give it another play. I might, because those are things that she interacts with, I'm actually just going to change their shading color, just so it's very clear. Let's just add a new Lambert. I mean, having it even in white like this is fine. But I'm just going to make it a slightly paler, like give it some color. We'll do something like that, just so we can actually read it. Do I ever feel burnt out with this piece? No, not yet. Only because it's something I want to do. If it's something that I felt was like a chore, it was tedious, then maybe I would feel more burnt out. It is a long process, but I just really like the project, so like I just remain passionate for it. Part of me wonders now. See how she slides down the screen? I don't know if I like that. I kind of want her to remain in this screen space for longer. So it's not so much an issue with the animation. I can do that with the camera. I do like the background kind of holds in here, and this composition is kind of cool. But there is a lot of negative space to the left. So I do wonder if I can slightly recompose it so that she ends up in this space for a bit longer. So I'll give that a try. We can try it on a layer just so that we don't break anything too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the keys. So around here, from this point here, I'm actually okay with her staging. So what I'm going to do is I can see where her head placement is. So what I'll do is I've got the camera anim around this key here. So I'm going to set a key there in the layer. And then I know when we get to the drop around here, this is okay. So this is my this is like my proximity to work within to restage. So as she's coming up, I actually do need to turn off her screen space here, otherwise it's going to break. So I don't know if it, I wonder if it works that way. I may need to reattach the, I wonder if when you change the camera, it's only when you reattach the script does it work? I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. I may need to rerun the script, in other words, but then you'd lose all the keys that you turned it on and off with. So there's maybe a bit of a hiccup in the workflow if it does that, but we'll find out. So in order to do that, I can go into this control. So this section here, for the meantime, I'm going to turn off her screen space match. So now I can animate some adjustments, especially in here. So I can also look at what her spacing is doing in perspective. Yeah, she's kind of holding, but you can see her camera. I wonder if I just keep her going up. So through this section, first thing to do is to fix the spacing on her TY. So she stays high for longer. That's one thing. and then it's the camera. So in here, say I have this screen space key here. I'm going to copy this position, and then around here, this is where she starts to drop a lot. I'm going to paste it back, and then we're going to blend back to where we started. Ah, why is that not working? I pasted the position. Oh. That was annoying. So, for some reason... There we go. It didn't add all the channels because they were locked at the time. That's fine. So now I can copy that again. So as it drops here, I'm going to add a key here. And then I'm just going to blend back to where we were. Now I can check the screen space. So she is coming toward camera, but that shouldn't stop her. If she needs to remain in the screen space around here, she's kind of like her eyes on number 8. So I can just favor. It's going to cheat her screen space. And then she can begin to wrap around. I think at that point there, she begins to drop, that's fine. Because then she's easing out. It's just that section there. And then, as this foot kicks out, I just need to tweak the position of her foot again. Something like that. So now the question is, when I attach again the screen space, does it fix? Ah, it wasn't splined. That's already an issue. So let's spline the blend, because that may have changed things. Oh yeah, that did change things. So let's go back on the character. Just coming through. Oh, it's going a lot. I am going to tone this down. I do like the composition we had. Maybe just not as far. You just maybe went a bit too wide. And she is quite high here. So what I can do is just slightly lift the camera up a little bit. Something like this. So let's merge that back down before let's save it before I break something. Then I need to reattach. I'm going to reattach the key, and I want to see if it matches still, because if I change the camera, does it automatically correct where the camera space switches to, or is it based on where it was? That's the question. In other words, is it dynamic as you turn it on and off? Does it automatically update to the new camera position? That would be really cool if it is. So that merged down pretty quickly, which is good. So now I can go back into our camera space, onto this key, which was here. This whole section, we were going to turn it back on. So this is all fine. Now, as it comes through here, there wasn't an issue. Oh, damn. It is dynamic. How have you done that? This guy's a genius. Asan, you're some kind of scripting god. How are you able to... How is it dynamically attaching? When you're changing the camera, it always preserves the screen space no matter where you change it. That's so good. I'm just tracking her spacing here. I'm just tracking her head, because that's the thing that's jarring. And then we can fix the foot if we need to. Yeah, so track the foot. That should be okay now. And then we can look at the timing on the... yeah, we'll have a look at the timing of how she drops. Now, this is the other thing. It's recognizing specific keys. So... And also, yeah, I'm gonna have to... if I retime it, I imagine I will have to rerun the script. Maybe. Because it's assigned to certain keys to know where to... So you may need to rerun it when you retime. Yeah, because this is on ones right now. So if I put this on twos, just that section, it might be a little better. So here to here, let's try putting this on twos. Yeah, so we're going to try retiming. I don't know if this is going to work. It may break the screen space. Seems okay so far. Maybe that's also dynamic. Can you imagine? I think it is, you know. How? How has he done that? Ah, no. There you go. There. It's, yeah, now it's out of place. So I think I may need to rerun it. Because it's assigned to certain keys. I don't know if you can reassign. Can you reassign keys? I don't think you can. It's not a huge issue. I'd have to go in, turn them on and off again. Like, it's not a huge deal. It's just, like, if you do end up retiming stuff. But before we do that and run, like, fix the script, it's probably worth just checking the feeling of the drop to see if the adding it on twos actually helped. Rather than ones. But yes, it's dynamic to camera movement, but I don't think the timing, if you change your timing, it's probably going to change. Just want to see if that helped. Yeah, because now it's jittering, which is fine. It's just that section there. I think that helps a bit though. Alternatively, we just don't have her go so low. So in here, she comes through. She'd have to stay above. It's quite nice though, how much she does drop into the up. It's a spacing thing as well. So like maybe I could play around with in here. Maybe this needs to be on a 2 as well, potentially. So all of this I can offset by an extra key. So I'm going to have to reassign the screen spacing, which is fine. I think he said you can just delete the node and it will fix it. So I can just delete these and then I can just go in and reassign it again, which isn't a huge deal. Let me just find out where we started. There. So I'll go in, attach to camera. The camera's here. Master was this one. Assign the keys from this one, and then attach. And then I can key that off. Then from here it's on. Here it's off. All the way through here it was off. Then from here it's on. Here it's off. Here it's on. And then all the way through here it was on. Whoa. Need to fix that spline. And then after that last key here, now it's off again. And then we'll do the same to these guys. So just change it to this. And then key this off. As soon as she touches there, now it's on. And then she drops down here, now it's off. And then we'll do the same to this guy. Key this off. And then later when she touches the fence, here, now it's on. Until she lets go, which is going to be this one, so now it's off. So yeah, we fixed that. I just need to fix, there was some weird extra key in there. It looked like the hand there. What's going on there? I didn't touch that. That should be in stepped. Very strange. Oh, I think I know what it was. If I select this, yeah, my essentials, I didn't select those. So I need to add that to the picker. So in here, if I select this guy, I need to add these two as well. They need to be added. Replace. Save. There you go, now it's added those two controls. They weren't added for some reason when I was making the picker earlier. Yeah, it feels a bit better, doesn't it? We'll give it one more play. And then we'll call it there. Just need a little bit more time. Oh, there's some... Yeah. some of this has got some transition keys on it that we don't want. But it's feeling good. I just need to select all of this and make sure it's all in step. Because it looked like there was some weird blending keys in here. Where was it? There. Why is that going there? So this key needs to be earlier. There's some... Also, it's going through the railing here now. Was it always going through the railing? I don't remember that. Maybe it was. There, can you see the enlarging? Some of these keys are not... do not have the same timing as each other. Let's delete that. Right, I think that's now fixed. I love how her shoulder is going through her head. You can see that little green on the back. There we go. I'll scrub it back later so you just see her land there. Yeah, that feels good. I think we've made some decent progress today. So yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Hopefully me answering your questions has helped. And by all means, like I say, if you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me via Twitter or LinkedIn. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow for future streams. I'll be trying to do as many streams as I can this week during the day. My day, that is. So that's usually 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. BST, maybe earlier, depending on how busy I am that day, what I've got to do. But next week, I will be away. And the week after, I will be away. And then after that, we'll see what time I have. I'll be starting a new job. So yeah, there'll be a bit of a quiet downtime whilst I just kind of gets back on my feet and understands the new job and that kind of stuff. So I'm making sure I make some good progress this week so that we've got something to look forward to. And then we'll see how far we get. And then I'll definitely try and chip away at it where I can. But of course, my time will be a little bit more limited. So I'm just being transparent with you guys. But yeah, we'll always be making progress. So yeah, in the meantime, I'll catch you in the next day or two. Hopefully tomorrow. And yeah, stay tuned. See you guys.